The member for Braddon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Treasurer. Will the Treasurer please update the House on how the Morrison government is providing stability and certainty by delivering tax relief for millions of hard-working Australians, including in my electorate of Braddon? And is the Treasurer aware of any higher taxing alternatives?
The Treasurer has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Braddon for his question. And the member for Braddon's a beef farmer. He's a soldier who's proudly served his nation, and he can trace his family connections back to the 1850s in his electorate, Mr Speaker. And around 40,000 taxpayers in the electorate of Braddon will get a tax cut as a result of the policies that this side of the parliament endorsed, Mr Speaker, and the legislation that went through the parliament just a few weeks ago. But, Mr Speaker, how good are tax cuts, Mr Speaker? Because they enable Australians to earn more and to keep more of what they earn. And as of today, Mr Speaker, $15.5 billion has made its way out of the doors of the Australian Tax Office and into the pockets of hard-working Australians, Mr Speaker. Around 6 million Australian taxpayers have got a tax refund for the 18-19 year, Mr Speaker. Now, the result of our tax cuts is that we are now creating a simpler, stronger, fairer tax system, Mr Speaker, abolishing a whole tax bracket, Mr Speaker, and 94% of Australian taxpayers will pay a marginal rate of no more than 30 cents in the dollar, Mr Speaker. Now, lower taxes, you would think that would have the support of both sides of this parliament. No, it didn't have the support of those opposite, Mr Speaker. They fought us every step of the way with our tax cuts. Oh, he says no. He says no, Mr Speaker. I take the interjection, Mr Speaker. I take the interjection from those opposite because let me remind them what those opposite said about our tax cuts, Mr Speaker. They said our tax cuts. The member for Rankin's not looking because he knows. They said our tax cuts were offensive, Mr Speaker. They said our tax cuts were a con job, Mr Speaker. The member for McMahon, he said our tax cuts were reckless, Mr Speaker. Now we see a tug-of-war between the member for Grainler, Mr Speaker, backed up by the member for Hindmarsh, and Chairman Swanee, Mr Speaker, backed up by his acolyte, the member for Rankin, Mr Speaker. A tug-of-war over the $387 billion of higher taxes. But today, Mr Speaker, there was another player in that debate. Another player in the debate. The member for Maribyrnong came into the debate, Mr Speaker, and he said it was inevitable that they would have to rethink their policies, Mr Speaker. I think this is the first time the member for Maribyrnong and the member for Grainler have been on the same side of a debate, Mr Speaker, because the Australian people know that the Labor Party will always be the party of higher taxes, Mr Speaker, and the Coalition will always be the party of lower taxes and more jobs.
The Treasurer's time has concluded.